Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're plunging into some sources, material you brought us that make a really powerful case.
Yeah, the idea that maybe a lack of clarity is, behind most of the failures we run into in life.
Exactly. So think of this stuff as a kind of roadmap. Insights on finding clarity, living with more intention, getting your energy up, and really unlocking potential.
And we'll be your guides, wading through it, pulling out the key takeaways, and sort of connecting the dots for you.
Okay, let's jump right in because the sources kick off with this incredibly vivid story. Really highlights the danger of not having that clear picture.
Oh yeah, it totally sets the stage. Picture this. Setting sail from Mamaroneck, New York. Seems like the perfect start, right?
Perfect start. You're out there feeling great, ready for an adventure, and then boom, blinding fog rolls in. Just like that, can't see a thing.
Suddenly you're navigating blind. They'd set a course 50 nautical miles east of Morehead City, specifically to avoid these known shallow spots. First time totally out of sight of land.
And here's the kicker, the author finds out later, after this whole terrifying ordeal, that it was the captain's maiden voyage in the open sea. Wow. Yeah. His first time commanding a boat like that, out of sight of land. Can you imagine hearing that afterwards?
Talk about bad timing. Inexperienced meeting, well, a really dangerous situation. So it's midnight, way out there, 50 miles from shore. And suddenly they're in terrifyingly shallow water, like 8 feet deep.
8 feet in the open ocean.
Yeah, boats getting tossed around, white water everywhere. The sources, they really describe this palpable fear like they thought they were going to die.
Like being thrown around in a washing machine, totally out of control. And in that moment, pure desperation, he starts praying. He even admits he wasn't very religious then.
And supplies, running out fast. Eventually they're down to just some fruit and a 6-pack of Diet Dr. Pepper.
Diet Dr. Pepper. He says he hasn't touched it since. Can't blame him.
No kidding. So 4 incredibly long, terrifying days pass. No food, no water left. Then they finally spot a bird, a sign of land.
Thank goodness. Then lightning flashes, reveals the shore in the distance. They somehow manage to navigate into a port, jump off the boat.
And literally kiss the ground.
Yeah.
Just thanking God they're alive.
And the punchline. After all that terror, 4.5 days of being lost and battered,
Yeah.
where do they end up?
Let me guess.
Right back where they started. Morehead City.
Unbelievable.
Talk about a stark lesson, right? No clear map, no plan. You just get tossed around and end up, well, right back at square one.
And this whole theme of clarity, it's not just theoretical for the author. It's
Yeah.
deeply personal, tied to his own life. He shares about his father dying suddenly. Heart attack.
Yeah, he was only 15. His dad seemed perfectly fine just hours before. That's incredibly tough.
Really tough. And then maybe 20 years later, he reads this letter his mom got back in 68. It was from his dad's friend, Archie Bowes Jr.
Oh, okay.
And this letter, it just painted this picture of his father he hadn't really seen before. Archie called him a man ahead of his years, someone who saw community needs and just took action.
Wow. So he learned more about his dad's drive from that one letter.
Than almost anything else, yeah. It gave him this whole new perspective.
That must have hit hard, especially comparing his father's proactive nature to his own feeling of, drifting, like that boat trip.
Absolutely. And it sparked this deep reflection about his own legacy. He talks about thinking, maybe a bit morbidly, he admits, but thinking about what people would say at his funeral. What was he building?
That's a powerful motivator.
It really was. That reflection, thinking about his dad's life and his early death too, it lit a fire under him. It fueled his passion for health, for helping people make better choices, which connects directly to things like the Juice Man juicer.
Right, like he couldn't help his dad back then, but he could dedicate himself to helping others live healthier, more intentional lives now.
Exactly. That potent mix of personal experience, reflection, and finding a really compelling why.
So that's what we're diving into with these sources, the practical strategies they lay out for building that clarity. The author calls it a map quest for your life.
Like how to build a healthy, high-energy lifestyle. There's even a specific formula mentioned, and crucially, the role of your mindset.
Yep. And finding and holding on to your why, that powerful reason. We'll look at some amazing stories, like the boxer James J. Braddock and an Ironman athlete.
And living intentionally, having that clear picture, like the puzzle box analogy, the power of just taking action, and the really strong evidence for writing down your goals. We'll touch on those famous Yale and Harvard studies, too.
Oh, yeah, those are key. And why don't people set goals? And a framework, the SMART goals thing, to help.
Then there's unlocking your unique genius, that sweet spot where what you love meets what you're great at, and what usually stops us from operating there.
Like the roadblocks, comfort zone, trying to do it all yourself.
Then discipline. The sources call it the X factor. We'll cover like 6 steps for that and why getting mentors is so vital.
And tackling the junk in your life. Not just clutter, but financial junk, legal stuff. There's a wild lawsuit story there, mental, tech, even relationship junk.
Yeah, clearing the decks and then creating the wow experience, not just in business, but, at home too, with the people who matter most.
Looking at examples like Ritz-Carlton, the Juice Mint, the George Foreman Grill, and how you apply that wow to your spouse, your family.
And finally, getting more high payback activities, HPAs, into your day.
Right.
Cutting out the low payback stuff, the LPAs. Understanding your time's value.
And wrapping it all up with balance. Aligning with your core values, managing time, building rituals, avoiding overload.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Ready to unpack all this?
Let's do it. Where do we start?
Well, the sources really hammer home the foundation first, building that healthy, high-energy lifestyle.
Right. It's presented as, like, non-negotiable.
Yeah.
The point being, if you don't have the physical and mental energy, everything else we talk about, it's just way harder, maybe impossible.
Totally. It's the fuel in the tank,
Yeah.
The sources suggest this formula, 75 plus 20 plus 5.
And that breakdown is pretty revealing. 75% nutrition, 20% exercise, only 5% supplements.
Exactly. And people often get that backwards, right? They hope that little 5% in pills can somehow make up for a lousy diet and no movement.
Yeah, it really shows where the real impact comes from.
And a huge piece of that energy puzzle, often missed, is your mindset, that positive mental attitude. The sources call out stinking thinking as just a massive energy drain.
It makes sense. Stress, negativity,
Yes, then.
they take a physical toll.
Definitely. It really starts upstairs, in your head. If you're trying to do something but that little voice inside is saying, you can't, well...
We've already lost half the battle.
Yeah.
It's about consciously choosing how you respond, not just reacting negatively all the time.
And on the nutrition front, those 7 principles, pretty simple stuff, but powerful. Planning meals, shopping lists, cutting back on animal products.
Focusing heavily on fruits and veggies, especially raw when you can.
Right, and they're big on juicing, obviously.
Yeah.
As a way to cram in more nutrients than you might normally eat whole.
Though they do stress, you still need the whole foods for fiber. Can't just juice everything.
Good point. And hydration. Just drinking enough plain water. So basic, but most people don't do it. Swapping out sugary drinks. Easy win for energy.
And eating smaller meals more often, 5 or 6 a day instead of 3 big ones. Keeps the metabolism going, prevents crazy hunger swings.
And chewing slowly. Mindful eating, like 25 chews per bite. Simple, but makes a difference.
Supplements are just that last 5%. To fill gaps, not replace good food. The sources say, do your homework, maybe talk to a pro like Dr. Michael Murray, who they mentioned. Look for quality seals.
Then the 20% exercise, not just for the body, but huge for the mind, too. Endorphins, focus, stress relief, better sleep. The author even planned a 100-mile bike ride in his late 50s.
With commitment.
And finally, rest. Quality sleep. Needs vary, but if you always need tons of sleep, maybe check your stress levels. Usual tips. Avoid caffeine late, no heavy meals before bed, regular schedule, ditch the screens before sleep.
So that whole package, nutrition, movement, smart supplements, positive outlook, good rest, that's the high-octane fuel you need for everything else.
Which leads right into the next big piece. Finding your compelling why. You know that Nietzsche quote, "He who has a why can bear almost any how."
Right. The sources kind of riff on that, saying the person who knows how gets a job, but the person who knows why will be the boss.
It's about that deep internal drive that pushes you through the hard stuff, the resistance, the grind. The story of James J. Braddock, the Cinderella Man, is such a great example.
Yeah, washed-up boxer, fighting champs he had no business being in the ring with. But his why, seeing his family cold and hungry.
Exactly. It wasn't about glory. It was survival for them. That's powerful.
The sources suggest we're driven by seeking pleasure or avoiding pain. Right. But most people stall because the reason why they need to change isn't strong enough to outweigh the pain of the effort involved.
Why really is the great equalizer. Think about Scott, the Ironman athlete mentioned. Horrific accident, loses his leg to a truck. Most people would just stop.
Understandable.
But his why became inspiring others, especially wounded vets, showing what's possible, his goal. Compete in the Hawaii Ironman with prosthetics.
Just incredible. The training, the willpower. Changing legs during the race.
His book's called Unthinkable, and he asks that powerful question, what's your excuse? But more importantly, what is your reason why?
Knowing your why doesn't make the how easy, but it makes it possible, bearable, like those medical students facing burnout.
Yeah, just overwhelmed by the sheer volume, the difficulty, the grueling how of becoming a doctor.
And their professors reminded them. What did you feel when you first decided to do this?
To help people. That was the core reason. Remembering that original why helped them push through the boards, the long hours. It reframed the struggle.
So bottom line, if your why isn't big enough, the goal won't last. That compelling reason carries you. The sources really push you. Figure out your why now. Write it down. Reasons come before results.
Which flows perfectly into living with intentionality. That Mark Twain quote about regretting things you didn't do.
Mm-hmm. Intentionality means consciously choosing your direction, having that clear picture, instead of just reacting all the time.
The jigsaw puzzle analogy they use is spot on. Trying to do a 1,000-piece puzzle with no picture on the box.
Forget it. You've got all the pieces, potential, time, whatever, but no idea what it's supposed to look like. Total struggle.
But give someone the box cover. Productivity jumps. They see the goal. They have a plan.
It's the same in life. Without that clear picture, we just react. The author talks about feeling like scattered puzzle pieces before he found clarity, his mistakes linked to just reacting.
Just like being tossed around on that boat, reacting to the fog, ending up back in Warhead City, no direction.
And that letter about his father, the one from Archie Bowes Jr., it highlighted that contrast, right? His dad's vision versus his own previous lack of direction.
Definitely. And thinking about his own legacy, what he wanted his life to stand for, that became a huge driver for intentional living, setting clear goals. It's that Stephen Covey idea. Begin with the end in mind.
And one of the most striking things the sources highlight is the power of just writing goals down.
Yeah, the author asks audiences, how many have written measurable goals? In one group of 300, maybe 20 hands go up. And only one person had written goals beyond just business.
And that one person
turned out to be the #2 revenue producer in the whole company.
Wow. That's not a coincidence.
Nope. The sources back it up with those studies. Yale, 1953. The 3% with written goals ended up earning more than the other 97% combined after 20 years.
Combined. That's staggering. And the Harvard one?
Similar results, 1979 study, 10 years later. The 3% with written goals earned 10 times as much as the other 97%. The data is just undeniable. Writing it down makes a massive difference.
So why don't more people do it?
Several reasons listed. Fear of failure, looking silly, like people telling the author he was crazy to think banks would fund a juicer business.
Or just never learning how to set goals effectively.
Yeah.
Not really getting how powerful they are.
Complacency, too. Maybe after a little success. Getting fat, dumb, and happy, as they say.
Yeah.
And even fear of success itself sometimes. That Mandela quote about fearing our own light.
Written goals also act like a filter, a GPS. They help you say yes to the right things and, maybe more importantly, no to the wrong things. Like his daughter Stephanie turning down job offers.
Right. They looked good, but didn't quite match her specific written vision for her career. She held out.
And got the exact job she wanted. That shows how written goals stop you from settling.
It connects to that idea of attraction, too. Being clear, writing it down, visualizing it, makes you notice opportunities, draw things towards you. The SMART framework is just a tool to make those goals concrete.
Specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, time-based.
Yeah. Structure's good, but action is key. The story of Bill Bartman directing traffic in that gridlocked parking lot so they wouldn't miss their flight, that's taking initiative.
Stepping up when everyone else is just stuck.
The sources are pretty blunt. Prayer helps, sure, but action creates results. Pray like it depends on God, work like it depends on you. Goals plus action equals change.
Okay, so from setting goals to actually doing them from your core strength, let's talk about unlocking your unique genius.
Right, that spot where what you genuinely enjoy doing meets what you're naturally really good at, where you get great results, often with less struggle.
It's a cool idea. We're all born with unique gifts, a purpose. Living from that place builds real self-worth, stops you comparing yourself so much. Go for great, not just good, by using your strengths.
And the sources link this to your internal state affecting your external reality. You choose. Get bitter about challenges or get better and use them. Change inside and things change outside.
But if it's so great, why isn't everyone living in their genius zone? What holds people back?
Well, sometimes just not knowing the concept exists, or the pull of the comfort zone it's familiar feels safe.
Getting stuck in rules or bureaucracy, too.
And that Lone Ranger thing, trying to do it all yourself instead of delegating or collaborating, even when someone else could do it better or free you up.
The story about Cortez burning his ships. That's an extreme example, but it shows that kind of commitment needed sometimes. No turning back.
Yeah, forces you forward. It ties into focusing on strengths, making weaknesses less relevant, and the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle.
Right, 80% of your best results probably come from 20% of your activities, likely the ones using your genius. That's where you make the biggest impact.
How do you know if you're in your genius? Signs include passion for the work, like the author selling juicers on plane.
Constantly learning about it, having momentum, trusting your gut, like his call to the CEO in that lawsuit, which we'll get to.
And crucially, less burnout. When you're in the zone, it energizes you more than it drains you.
The sources suggest asking people close to you, what do they see as your strengths and passions? Sometimes it's obvious to others, but not to us.
You might even realize you could get paid for stuff you do for free just because you love it.
Okay, so finding your genius. But then you need discipline to actually make it work consistently.
Absolutely. Talent and passion are the fuel, but discipline is the X factor, turning potential into reality. That saying, the will to win without the will to prepare to win is nothing.
Yeah. Success doesn't come before work, except in the dictionary. Performance is built on consistent prep, way before game day. Discipline plus talent plus passion. That's the powerhouse combo.
So 6 steps the sources offer for building discipline. 1. Become a real student of your craft. Never stop learning.
2. Go the extra mile, consistently. The author connects his detailed speech prep to getting more gigs.
3. This is a big mindset shift. Stop hoping to succeed, start expecting to succeed.
How does that work?
The more you prepare, the more disciplined you are, the more you can genuinely expect a certain outcome. Like the Atlanta Braves building a winning team or his juicer seminar sales, they knew the results they'd get because of the groundwork. Hope isn't a strategy. Expectation built on prep is.
Okay, got it. Number 4.
Get accountability. Find someone who'll call you out, keep you honest with yourself.
5. Beat procrastination with Eat the Frog. Brian Tracy's idea.
Right. Do the hardest, most important task first thing in the morning. Tackle that dreaded thing, and the rest of the day feels easier, builds momentum.
The author's frog is writing. Doing it first changes his whole day. Identifying your frog is key.
And finally, 6. Find a mentor or coach. Top athletes have coaches. Successful people have mentors. Learn from those who've already done it.
Saves time, avoids mistakes, like asking a couple with a great marriage for advice, or business leaders, or even Gates asking Buffett. People who've mastered something are often willing to share.
Discipline isn't flashy, but it builds confidence, drives results. Combine it with talent and passion. Unstoppable.
Okay, now let's pivot to clearing the decks, getting rid of the junk. Less glamorous, but essential.
Yeah, the analogy is dragging unnecessary luggage. We all do it, right? Clutter ourselves with negative thoughts, bad habits, old grudges.
The author shares some really personal, heavy stuff here. Losing his younger brother Johnny to drowning, and later his brother David. He connects these losses to the idea that we all carry pain. We're all, in a way, adult children of dysfunctional families, because life throws curveballs.
And the crucial choice is how you respond. Let it drag you down, use it as an excuse, or learn from it, process it, maybe even use it to help others.
Trying to just bury it, like the bad compartmentalization on the Titanic, is dangerous.
Right.
One leak can sink the whole ship. The goal is airtight compartments deal with issues properly. Don't let them flood everything.
Mark Crawford's analogy of demons running around the house, those negative thoughts or past issues.
Yeah.
The key isn't necessarily getting rid of them completely, but keeping them locked in the basement, under control. You hold the key.
A victim mentality, feeling owed something because of past struggles, that's major mental junk. It keeps you stuck. The past doesn't have to dictate the future unless you let it.
So what is this junk, broadly defined? Physical messes, procrastination, busy work, unfinished tasks, low payback activities, mental clutter, resisting change, anything adding drag without adding value.
It's like a messy kitchen after cooking, right?
Yeah.
A natural byproduct, but if you don't clean it up regularly, it takes over. Got to tackle it head on.
6 specific types identified. First, physical junk. We hoard stuff. The self-storage boom proves it. The author talks about downsizing his house, forcing them to confront 15 years of accumulation.
Second, financial junk.
Yeah.
Debt, disorganized finances, money worries, huge stress, kills focus.
Third, legal junk. Outdated documents. No, well, apparently 80% of people don't have one. Or identity theft, which can take months to fix.
And that Juicing for Life book story.
Oh, yeah, that's wild. Sold millions, way more than expected, led to a huge legal fight over royalties.
And he chose to settle quickly, walk away from potentially a lot more money.
Just to get rid of the legal junk. It was consuming his time, energy, focus. He paid financially to eliminate the drag. Conscious choice.
Fourth, mental junk.
Yep.
Brain clutter. Feeling overwhelmed. Like too many apps open on your phone slows everything down. Importance of compartmentalizing, again, keeping work at work, home at home, dealing with issues in context.
Fifth, technology junk. Email is the poster child here.
Mm-hmm.
Constant checking, reacting, especially to fake urgent stuff. Huge LPA. The tip, check it only at set times.
Simple, but hard to do. And sixth, relationship junk. Scrutinizing who you spend time with. That Lowry Robinson question. Is this person lifting you up or pulling you down?
It's critical. The example of the parents holding their son back a year in school to change his peer group. Controversial, but it works long term. Your associations shape you.
So why all this junk? Lack of clarity is one reason. Indecision breeds clutter, and that just-in-case mentality.
Yeah, holding on to stuff, jobs, even relationships out of fear, scarcity thinking.
The 80-20 rule comes back here as a tool. Find the 20% of things causing 80% of your problems or taking 80% of your unproductive time and flip it. Find the 20% giving 80% of your positive results. Focus there.
Even small decluttering wins help build momentum. Filing, organizing one drawer, automating bills, just making a plan to tackle junk helps.
Okay, so cleared the junk. Now let's build the positive. The wow experience. Exceeding expectations.
In business, sure, but also crucially in your personal life.
Right. In business, WOW means repeat customers, referrals, loyalty. Means you can often charge more because you deliver something exceptional.
The Juice Man business was all about WOW. Free educational seminars, that crazy 100% satisfaction policy replacing one someone shot a bullet through.
Seriously.
And obsessing over phone wait times because they valued customer time.
Having a clear mission, hiring people who genuinely care like the Starbucks CEO, wanting people who smile. Empowering employees too.
Yeah, the Ritz-Carlton policy, letting staff spend money to fix problems instantly. Or Nordstrom's inverted pyramid, it lets people create those WOW moments.
People with responsibility who solve problems, they're more engaged, usually paid better, less frustrated. The story about the donkey in the well.
Gets buried, shakes off the dirt, steps up. But then bites the farmer later. Cautionary tale about hiding mistakes. Transparency builds trust.
The sources contrast the Juiceman's success with the Breadman bread machine. Good product, but lacked that WOW factor in the overall experience.
But the George Foreman grill, that's a great example of finding the WOW initial marketing on celebrity. Didn't fly.
Right. Then research showed people cared about removing fat.
So they rebranded. Lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine. That was the WOW for consumers. Huge sales. That massive payout for Foreman.
Dr. Hattrack, the chiropractor, created WOW by getting certified in a special technique, making his clinic feel cutting edge, delivering results. Rebranded for perceived value.
But the biggest point, apply this WOW thinking at home. Your spouse, your family, they're your biggest clients. Business success means little if home life fails.
Same intentionality needed. Family mission statement, scheduling date nights first, planning surprises, like the author's surprise birthday dinner for his wife. Thoughtful effort.
Doesn't have to be expensive, just intentional, creative ways to show love and appreciation, create those positive moments.
Which leads right into maximizing high payback activities, HPAs, and minimizing low payback ones, LPAs. Starts with knowing your time's value.
Do the math. Salary divided by hours worked gives your hourly rate. $50 at 40 hours is about 26 hours. $150 at 50 hours is like $62.50 an hour.
Seeing that number really changes your perspective on tasks you could pay someone $15 to do, right?
Totally. You realize doing those LPAs yourself is costing you way more in lost opportunity for HPAs.
HPAs are the activities aligned with your biggest goals, ideally using your genius. They produce the most results, often lift others up. Identify your top 3 to 5 HPAs for work, family, health.
LPAs are the opposite. Time sucks with little value. Delegate, automate, eliminate. Email's often a big one. Cutting LPAs frees up time and energy for HPAs.
It can be tricky eliminating LPAs in a job, but finding efficiencies or suggesting focusing on higher value work shows initiative.
And that Mexican fisherman story, it really makes you think. The contrast between the businessman working relentlessly for 20 years to retire to a fishing village.
And the fisherman already living that simple, fulfilling life. working just enough, enjoying his days. It challenges what an HPA really is for you personally.
Yeah, beyond just money. It loops back to that dash idea. It's like significance isn't just accumulation, it's impact. Your HPA should ideally contribute to that.
Okay, bringing it all together is balance. Starts with knowing your core values. Are your goals aligned with them?
If not, you get internal conflict, stress, like wanting career success but valuing family time. Above all, if the career demands constantly undermine family time, something's going to give. Your values are your compass.
And time management is key for balance. If you don't manage your time, something or someone else will. Schedule the priorities first.
Put the important rocks in the jar first, right? Date nights, family time, exercise, HPA blocks, get them on the calendar before it fills up.
Maintaining that high-energy foundation we talked about first is also critical for having the resilience for balance. And don't shit on yourself.
Haha, yeah. Be realistic, accept imperfection, ditch the guilt over what you should have done. Focus on now.
Establishing helpful rituals helps too. Morning routines, evening wind-downs, weekly planning creates structure.
And avoiding overload, especially passive stuff like too much TV. Those Nielsen stats are sobering, or being constantly plugged in. Protect your time and energy.
The sources wrap this section with that story about Whitney, the runner who collapses after crossing the finish line.
Saying she didn't leave it all on the course if she doesn't pass out. Intense.
Intense, yeah. But used as a metaphor for that level of dedication possible when you have clarity, you're in your genius, focused on what matters within your values and balance, giving your best.
Wow, okay. We have covered a lot of ground here, drawing from these sources you brought us, from seeing how lack of clarity leaves you lost, like ending up back in Morehead City,
to the absolute bedrock importance of having high energy. We've hit on finding your powerful why, the huge impact of intentional written goals with the studies to back it up.
Unlocking your unique genius for more effective action, the crucial role of discipline as that X factor.
The need to shed the junk, holding you back, physical, mental, all kinds, and the power of creating WowW experiences, especially for those closest to you.
Plus, focusing your time on high payback activities by knowing what your time is worth. And finally, finding balance by aligning everything with your core values.
The clear thread through all of this from the sources seems to be that the life you want isn't random chance. It's about being intentional, having clarity, taking consistent action, all fueled by a strong purpose.
Yeah, these principles are offered as a kind of map quest, a guide to navigate challenges and pursue what matters to you.
And they bring it back to that idea of the dash, that little line on a tombstone between the years. That's your life.
And its significance, they suggest, isn't about what you pile up, but the lives you touch, the difference you make.
So, thinking about everything we've dug into from these sources today, clarity, your why, intentional action, your genius. Here's something for you to maybe mull over.
What's one specific small action you could take, say, in the next 24 hours to live your dash a bit more intentionally? Something that uses your strengths, maybe makes a positive impact on someone else, just a little something to think about.